All right, welcome back to another episode of Grounding Ascension. And I'm so excited for today. I have a lovely guest with me today. Her name is Anela, and she is a Lemurian goddess priestess that I met here in Hawaii in a recent Lemurian energy session training. So, we're going to speak all about Lemuria and her perspective and how she awoke with it. Up with it. So, Anela, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Aloha, my name is Lalenia Anela Malulani Watson, and I go by Anela. I kind of transitioned into that name maybe about 2 years ago, um, when an elder had told me that it's time for me to step into my name. In the Hawaiian culture, the name it has such deep meaning, and um, I was really like, okay, Angel, that's kind of like a lot, yeah. But the whole name was Angel Under Heaven's Protection, or Angel Protected by Heaven. And that's what I felt. I felt like I am protected. I felt like this is perfect because during my awakening, I realized the soul family that I belong to, and which is the Shining Ones, and we're very protected. Just like anything that we want to bring forth in the world that is of light, we're completely supported by the universe. I mean, it even in ways that I cannot even describe in the physical. It can only be felt. And so that's when I transitioned into Anela Malulani. And I was at a big transitional point in my life as well. So, yeah.
So, I know that you come from a military background. I want you to share that a little bit because when we speak about awakening, it's like, what was that awakening like, right? What is that process? And it's so different for everybody. And it's so easy to say, yeah, Lemuria, I connect with it, right? We connect with it now, but I want you to share with the listeners what was your life before this awakening and a little bit of how the awakening happened to you, because it's pretty unique.
Yes, very. So, I was in the military for about 17 years, 17, 16 or 17 years. I went through a trauma in my family, and with a daughter, one of my daughters, my youngest daughter. And I just had a deep self-realization within that time frame. And I was in the military, and I was very fortunate actually to be in the military because I was given time off to really process what was happening in my life. And I realized during that traumatic event that I didn't understand what unconditional love really meant. And I realized I didn't even love my own children with unconditional love, because unconditional love means love without conditions, right? It means not loving, like with our children, we think we love them, but we love them, but we also want information from them. We want them to do things. We want them to be the perfect child, you know? And to love them unconditionally is to let go of all of that. And that's when I had learned that I didn't love myself. So I started going on this deep inner journey with myself and with the help of the ancestors, of course. I was in a state of complete surrender, and the ancestors came. I was sick for a while, about 5 days laying in bed, and I woke up and I was just like a completely different person. There was a lot of things that had come into my mind about myself, self-realization, and I was on the journey to self-love. And I would go to work and I just didn't want to be there. I really wanted to focus on the things that I needed to for me and my family. And so I started, before work, I would start doing meditations and listening to podcasts. And I lived in Makakilo and would drive all the way to Diamond Head. And I would listen, I would like Google search or search on YouTube all these Hawaiian spirituality and stuff like that, because I was so disconnected. I was very, very disconnected. I did not have the level of awareness that I have today. It was just like, get up, go to work, do this, do that, get the kids ready, and then go back to bed and do the same thing over and over. I was used to traveling a lot because the military, we do travel. So I had disconnected myself from my emotions, because I would always be like, okay, kids, see you later. This is just how it is. I leave for a couple weeks or a couple years even during deployments, and then just teach myself to adapt. So the emotional part was very disconnected. I also was pretty high ranking, so I had a lot of soldiers beneath me, and most of them were men. And I learned not to be vulnerable around them. I learned to be very, set the example, like a powerful, strong warrior woman that we are, right? But I had it in the egoic mind. It wasn't the mindset that I have now, what a strong, powerful warrior woman is. It was everything was out of ego. I was very detached from my body and my spirit. And so I started on this journey when I was doing my self-love and doing morning meditations, listening to all these spiritual podcasts and watching YouTube videos on my way to work. And traffic is like an hour and 45 minutes, right? So you have all the time in the world to like learn all this stuff. And I was just like, wow, like, how come nobody taught me these things, And I would sit at the beach and I would just meditate. And then I would do my workout. Well, I'd do my workout and meditate after my workout. And then that way I could like really ground into myself, and then I would go to work. And so every day started getting a little easier to be in the environment that I was in, because I was very upset and angry. I was just like, I didn't want to be there. I was complaining all the time, not realizing that I put myself there, right? I'm blaming the whole world like for my life, but really I was the one that put myself there. And so I started just trying to adapt with all these emotions that were coming in, because I wasn't used to it. And so I'd start getting into crystals, and I'd bring all these crystals and I'd put them around me at work. I'd start gifting people crystals because I would like, oh, they need this, they need that. I would go in the closet at work and just like meditate sometimes to get myself back in. And you don't do those kind of things in the military because you just seem really crazy. And it was to the point where my boss had called my wife and asked what was going on with me, because he really thought I was going crazy. And I would start talking about all these things and connecting to yourself. And, we're so detached emotionally and all this. And you really need to meditate and reconnect with the spirit self, right? The spirit, who we are. And I started seeing life that way. And they were just like, okay. And I'm sure everybody was, talking. And before then, I had already, when I went through the traumatic experience with my daughter, I had already detached from everybody, even my closest friends in the military. I had completely detached. I stopped hanging out and doing the things that I was doing. And because of the traumatic event, nobody came and asked how I was. So it was easy for me to kind of detach. And so now they're just sitting there like, okay, she disappeared. She's not hanging out anymore, not really talking story to anybody. And then now she's like doing these things. And it was so much that I would even be running outside, because remember I was saying I'd go running in the morning and then meditate. Well, while I was running during my meditation, I was starting to connect with my higher self already. Like I was starting to get messages in and just going through some changes. And I started connecting with the trees. And the park that I run in, there's these trees. And so while I was running, the tree would call and I would look at it and I would keep trying to run, right? And I would be like, oh my God, like I'm just gonna keep running. But the call was so like heavy. And so sometimes I would actually run off the trail and go hug the tree and then go back. And my, people, the people I would run with would look at me like, okay. And they don't say anything because, I was this leader. But I'm sure everybody was talking about it. Now I think about it, it's so funny. So anyway, I realized that I couldn't stay in anymore. And I put in I wanted to get out. And, but you have to do a certain amount of time. So I was in that locked in period and I couldn't get out. So I just continued my inner journey and working on self and put in for my retirement. And I just said, that's enough. So I was given the chance to go to school to be the highest rank, a command sergeant major. And I decided not to. And I said, no, I'm going to give the money to somebody else to go to school, that this isn't for me anymore. And I really need to focus on my life with me and my family. Because while you're in the military, it's kind of like your family is in your way of your life, of your career. But being in the career, now I feel like my career was in the way of my family. So it's two different ways of thinking completely. I remember somebody had told me one day, I was telling her all these things I had to do, and she was civilian. We call people that's not in the military civilians, and people that are in like military, our friends, because we only hang out with military people. They're the only ones that understand our way of thinking. So I was talking to her and she said, wow, that's a lot on your plate. It sounds like your job is really interfering with your family life and your life. And I've never heard that before. And I just looked at her and I just, it was just like somebody had slapped me in the face and said, wake up, look at the way that your thought process is, because everything was so backwards. And so I had to learn to start peeling. Once she said that, it brought me back to self, to start peeling back the onion and figuring out where my thoughts were. And so for that whole year, that's all I would do is think, am I doing this out of ego or am I doing this out of love? Every single thing I did, down to cooking for my family. If I made dinner for them, I'd think, am I doing this out of ego or love? And most of the time it was ego. And just because, I'm going to cook because my wife was cooking all this time and I didn't really want to give her a break out of my heart, I felt obligated, and I was at that point because we were just like partners in this. And that's how our life was moving. And I said, I'm not going to do anything that is not out of love unless it comes from the heart. And that's when I started changing my thinking. It was like a year and a half I went through that whole thing.
That's a tremendous shift, right? And talk about having courage, because you were in it. If there's someone that's like placed in the world where it's like you're not allowed to have a spiritual awakening, I would imagine it's in the military, right? And so yeah, like
of all places.
Wow, that's a tremendous amount of strength. And you actually reminded me of the fact that I actually went to school for something similar with government and intelligence and all of that stuff. And I remember feeling like when I was around that environment, it was like you did have to choose. There came a point where if you decided to sign a contract, it was like you're in for life and you're going to have to take this path, And I remember, now that you speak about it, it was a very similar attitude of, all right, I'm either choosing my life to give over to somebody else's or some other plan, right? That's really not based in love, right? Or
right.
I get to experience something that is calling my heart, although I have no idea what it is, but it feels so profound and so more right, So I didn't make that connection until now, which is really nice.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And so Mhm. Go
No,
ahead.
when you get in and you're doing it, you really, like, for me, I just did not see it because I was so programmed to think this certain way, and I just went in blindly. Like, I completely feel like now that I'm aware, I feel like I was walking around with a blindfold over my eyes the whole time, where now I'm completely aware of words and phrases and sayings and how things feel in my body, where at that time I didn't. I was young, I was early 20s. So of course we're just looking for, something out of, we're in fear. So we're looking for stability, something to hold us. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean that's an extreme, position that you were in to go into the military. But even, most people, I would say, the ones that are just choosing a job out of that fear and, just I'm going to do this just for the money, just for X, Y, and Z. It's the same thing, right? It may not be as extreme emotionally, but there's this choice point that we're all having and we're all living. And I'm sure anybody listening to this and anyone in the world really is given this opportunity several times of like, are you going to continue this path out of ego or fear? Or are you going to make a choice, which is very scary, right? But you have to have that
Yes.
courage and be like, just like
Mhm.
what you did, you were running on the track and you're like, I'm going to run away from my people and go hug a tree and come back, right? Like that is just a reflection of so many of the things that people would have to choose, right? Like it's just as weird for people to choose something that's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. And that was the thing. Nobody could understand when I said that I was going to retire. And they were like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm not sure. I'm going to work for myself because I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. And I just had my mind set on, I'm just going to be an individual. I just want to be sovereign. And people kept making promises and saying, oh, you can make 6 figures and go into this job. And there were all these job offerings came. And I kept remembering what brings you joy. And that completely does not bring me joy. It's completely out of fear. And I kept saying, no, I'm just going to do something on my own. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I trust the universe. And for somebody to say that to somebody who is like looking, I mean, if the military takes care of you 100%, no matter what is happening. And when you're getting out, it's like those strings are cut. That's it, you know? And I was so ready for that. And everybody, like till this day, yesterday, I still had somebody call me and say, hey, you want to come work for me? It's a GS11 job. And da, da. And I was like, oh no, I'm really good. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not sure. you know? And I'm
I
not because I'm
love that.
completely trusting the universe. I don't know. I'm just like, universe, take me wherever I belong.
I
And
love that.
I've been held. I've been held and I've been taken care of. And I don't have a fear of not being taken care of because I know that this is bringing me joy and this is in complete love. I'm not doing things out of fear based.
And you know that reinforces the idea and the understanding of anchoring into love, which is how you first started, right? Because sometimes we're on this path and it's like, I'm getting signs from the universe, like there's an opportunity, like that's the sign that I'm supposed to go back. So if you're not anchored so deeply into what you know, then it's so easy for the mind to take over and be like, create stories. Oh, that's a sign.
Yes.
Oh, I'm supposed to leave this, right? And it's like, I love that you said I don't know. I think I'm going to start using that because I don't know what I've done the past 10 years. Like I just don't have an answer. I feel like I do 10 million things and it's like I don't know. It's working.
Because you're just in flow, right? You're just in flow. Like that's how you know. I always say, I know I'm doing the right thing, but they're like, what is that? I go, I have no idea. Like I kind of created my own business and that was unintentional. It just happened, and like things just started flowing. And I just was like, okay. But if I did not do that self-reflection for the year and a half when I said I was watching my thoughts constantly, I wouldn't be able to catch that. Just like you said, like, you know, you would think that if you're not anchored, you would think, oh, maybe that's a sign. But I had learned to see what I had learned to distinguish between the heart and the ego really well because I was doing it every day, down to the point of just little things, simple things like doing something for my wife, you know. Am I doing something for her out of ego or heart? And most of the time it was out of ego. And I would be like, oh, how do I get back to that heart base and just do it because I really want to honor her instead of feeling like, okay, this is an obligation because she cooked for the past 5 days. Now I have to cook, you know? And that's like fear based because we're feeling guilty that we're not fulfilling our part. And I've really learned to watch that thought process.
Yeah, and that's really when it counts the most. You know, that's when we put our these things to practice in moment to moment, right? Like in the decision of making dinner, right? Or as
Yeah.
somebody would say, that's ridiculous, that's crazy, it's so minimal, but it's like it's in the minimal things, right, that add up, that now you're so anchored into your knowing that you're just held. You're held because you are, because you know you are, right? Amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, because you are native to Hawaii, so you're born here. You have, well, you have a mix, so you can talk about that. But so I always thought that just because people were Hawaiian and they were local or native, it's like, oh, they're automatically into the whole Lemuria thing, right? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're born in Hawaii? Great, you know about Lemuria, right? So can you share a little bit about specifically how you came about with Lemuria and how that went with your family and how that was?
Yeah, sure. So I remember I said that I had spent a lot of time in my room because um, it, when I had surrendered, I was at my lowest of lowest. I was going to the dark night of the soul, I guess they call it, and I had called out to my ancestors, and I was like, you know, I surrender, I surrender. I know my path, and I was just saying all these things, and I don't know how. I don't really remember what I was saying, but I was just telling them I know my path because when I was a child, a kahuna had told me that I had these gifts and I may become a kahuna when I get older. And I was like, I'm going to be far from that, right? Because when I was young, my mom was very into the Hawaiian culture, but I was so opposite. I just had to be everything opposite that she was. And I didn't want anything to do with the culture. I grew up going to the lo'i and doing things like that. She would take me when I was a teenager, and I just didn't want to have any part of it. I'd play, you know, I liked it when I was there, but I would rather hang out with my friends. And I was such a naughty teenager, very naughty. And I, my mom was always fighting for Hawaiian rights, and my mom was very educated in the system, and just she would do anything to really help the natives, the Kanaka Maoli is what we call ourselves, bring them back to the culture. And I just wanted to be opposite because I just had all this animosity against my mom, and I don't even know why. I just did. And when I during that period when I was calling out to the ancestors and yelling, um, I really meant that I needed knowledge. Like I kept asking them for knowledge. I need knowledge, and I just want to understand who I am and what I'm doing here and how to be a mom and everything. I want to understand who I am in my culture, where my roots go. And I just was yelling for about a half an hour to an hour. And thank God I have the wife that I do because she was just like, okay, yes, yes. And right, maybe an hour after that, well, right after that, I ended up going into, she put me in bed. And I couldn't get out of bed. I had a very high fever from that point on. I was in bed for about 5 days. I had massive dreams, and just all these dreams of these Hawaiian people coming to me and speaking in Olelo, Hawaii. I didn't understand what they were saying, and I would wake up and I'd see like things around my room, and I wasn't sure, and I'd just go back to sleep. I'd feel people's presence in my room, but I was so weak. I just couldn't get up. I didn't eat. And after that, I got up and, I started like really getting back to self and working on me. And I had this profound dream. And I was dreaming of this place. And it was so beautiful, like the colors and the flowers and the trees and the waterfalls. I just, you only see, the colors were like Lisa Frank. I don't know if you ever you ever knew her, but I loved Lisa Frank growing
Yes.
up, and the
Yes.
dolphins and that super Lemurian energy. Like she was channeling it,
Mm.
and we knew it, right? As kids, we
Mm.
knew it, but we just didn't know. So, oh my gosh, the colors, and that was the colors. It was like this Lisa Frank, scenery. And I was just seeing all these things. And then I woke up and I didn't say anything. And then I went back to sleep the next day, and I was in this place, and I was with Wahine, and I couldn't see their faces because I kept seeing the back of their hair, and their hair was like this, super long, and it was just flowing. And the only thing that I could feel at the time, like, are they Hawaiian women? And I thought they were like, Wahine. They were a little bit older, but very like manaful. They had lots of mana. And we started leaving, and we were walking down this trail, and all of a sudden this wind comes up, and I'm seeing my hair. My hair was like this, and I'm seeing it lift, and I'm seeing the other women's hair lift. And I turned around and I saw a continent below us, like we were leaving. And so I kept looking, and I was wondering, where are we? Where are we? And I said, are we leaving? I looked up to somebody, and it was energy. They were like in this beautiful rainbow color energy. And I said, are we leaving? And then they said, well, yes, but we have to wait. And I said, what are we waiting for? And then they said, we have one more Wahine. And I turned and looked, and she rose up, and we were in a spaceship. They had brought her up in the spaceship. And all of a sudden, I saw the continent, and I saw it so beautiful and bright. And then I saw the same thing right next to it, kind of on top of it. And it was moving away like this. And this was like dark and fire and lava. But it was the same Aina. It was the same land. And then I kept, like, I was like, where am I? And I was speaking light language, in the physical, but I wasn't in my dream. And so my wife was listening to me, and she said, what are you saying? Where are you? And then I go, I don't know, I told her. And she said, ask where you are. And I said, where am I? And then they said, Lemuria. And I never heard that word before. And so I just told her, I'm in Lemuria. And she was like, where is that? And then I go, I don't know. It's in the Pacific Ocean. It's in the middle of the Pacific. And then I said, I think that this is where we are. And then I woke up, and I was just crying and crying. And I didn't know why I was crying. And I was just like, wow. And I started having dreams like this. And I was getting more and more information and having more experiences. And I'm not really a dreamer, but these were very vivid, very vivid. And there were a lot about galactics, which I had no idea at the time. The only thing I could put it together with my experiences was like Star Wars, the guys in white. Because every time I was somewhere, they would come get me and tell me it's time to leave. And I don't know, but So that was my experience. And I kept saying Lemuria, Lemuria. And then I started Googling it, and this video came up. And it was a video of somebody talking about it a long time ago. And it resonated with me. And I was just like, what? This is the lost land. And my grandmother used to teach me about Atlantis. Nobody ever talked about Lemuria. Nobody in my family, nobody in my lineage, nobody anywhere. And I was very disconnected. I didn't even know my lineage. I didn't know who my ancestors were at that time. All I knew was my mom and my grandmother, and that's it. So I was watching this video, and it was like a 2 to 3 hour long video on the story of Lemuria. And to this day, I still can't find it. But I'm grateful that I had it at that time, because I really just thought I was going crazy. And so I ended up asking our family kahu, and I said, Corinne, I keep going to this place called Lemuria or Mu. No, Lemuria, I had just told her. I didn't hear about Mu. And I said, it's weird because we speak these different languages and we see these things and da, da, da. And she goes, oh, you're having an awakening. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, you're starting to remember. And she goes, wow, so tell me about it, and I told her, and she tells me, Lemuria was this and that. You were there at the ending part, and this and that. She's very good at past life reading. You were there during the ending part.
Was this a family member?
No, it was our family kahuna. She was kind of helping us through our life. She had blessed our house. And I had started turning to her for guidance, because I felt like, I'm not even sure why, what directed me to her, but I just felt deeply connected to her. She doesn't speak Hawaiian language, but yet when she's channeling energy, these chants come out of her and in ancient Mu language. And she says, I'm speaking Hawaiian. It doesn't sound like Hawaiian. I'm not sure where it comes from, but this is what I'm speaking. The first time we met her. And it was so profound that I just cried, because I felt every bit of energy moving through my body when she spoke that language. It was just like, what is this? Ancient language. But anyway, she had told me that I was starting to remember. And then I asked the ancestors, I was like, can you please connect me, show me more dreams and show me this? And all these things started popping up all of a sudden. All of a sudden I saw these YouTubes about it, and it was just like crazy. And I'd be driving to work for my hour and 45 minutes, and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't even want to go to work, right? I want to learn more and more. And some of it did not resonate at all, because anything that was tied in with Egypt and stuff, I wasn't feeling it, or Atlantis, but there was certain things about Lemuria that was really resonating. And I was having dreams about other planets, and I felt like I was from the Pleiades, and I remember being outside and telling my wife that I want to go home. I just don't want to be here on Earth anymore. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. And it was just a really rough period, because I didn't have any mentors or guidance. I didn't want to reach out to this kahu all the time, and I just she really wanted me to kind of venture on my own, bring in my own stuff. And she kept telling me, you're that powerful. You're going to become a healer. And then I was like, there's no way. There's no way I would ever become a healer, And she goes, yeah, you're going to be pretty powerful. And I was just like, okay, she's got the wrong person. But I just want to learn more from her, because I just was thirsty. And I started receiving a lot of information on Hawaiian words that started coming to me, and the deeper meanings of the words than what were being presented. And I just was like, oh my God, I have to share this with people. And we don't get this type of knowledge. There's only very few people who carry that knowledge. And one of them was Keone Hanale from Puhala Botanicals. And The first time I ever heard him, I just cried and cried and cried because he actually had a live person, his kupuna, his grandmother, that was teaching him these things. And so I inboxed him and I said, "How are you getting this knowledge? This is the same knowledge I'm getting, but I don't know who I'm getting it from because I didn't know how to connect. I was just waking up. I didn't know that I could tap into my abilities. I had no idea what was happening." And so that's kind of what started my journey. He validated it for me that I was on track. And then, you go back and forth because I would bring it up to certain people in my community, very prominent Hawaiian people, and they would say, "No, no, no," or "How'd you learn that?" Or, well, this and this and this from this lineage. And I just felt disconnected because I wasn't getting it from physical people. And I felt like I wasn't getting the right answers because what I was receiving was different, but I knew it was truth. It was my truth because I was there. I was visiting these places, Um, I was doing QHHT, and I was realizing that, okay, this is a real location. This is a real place. Oh my God. So, yeah. And then I did a reading, and this lady did an Akashic reading. And she does Akashic readings beyond Earth. She goes to our star lineage. And as soon as she started in and talking about the Pleiades, I just was like, oh my God. She was telling me about my life in the Pleiades and my life in Sirius and all this stuff. And I said, this is exactly what I'm seeing in my dreams. And I just cried and cried and cried. And I felt so validated that I was finally, somebody else was seeing what I was seeing, because the journey is lonely in the beginning. I even was, one day we were standing outside in Diamond Head, and I'm telling this guy I work with in the military, that this used to be Lemuria. When we fell, that we used to give the information to our ancestors and be able to talk to the whales and the dolphins. And he's just like, yeah. And I now I'm like, oh my God, what was I saying? But I needed truth. I had to find truth and find somebody who would honor my truth. And I thought he would, but he was just like, oh yeah, yeah. And I'm sure he was like, oh my God, Watson is going crazy.
Amazing. Wow, what a journey, right? And we share so many similar things, because this awakening, it's like it's so quantum and it's so individual, and yet it's also so collective. And when we ask for validation and then we don't see it, it's like we just need that one string to hold on to, right? And that's why it's so important that we speak about this and we get this out and we share it, and maybe others have different memories, and it doesn't say that they're wrong or right or anything, but it's just like, I love that you just anchor into your truth and you're like, I don't even care. I'm just going to tell the people around me. And because it's at some point, it's like, this is me. This is what I remember. And we've been stripped away from allowing ourselves to remember. I think that's one of the hardest things that we have to learn through this path of awakening, most specifically awakening to this kind of knowledge, right? Because there's awakening of like, I'm going to awaken, I'm going to figure out what the matrix is. But then there's awakening to this higher multidimensional level, which is what we're talking about. And that's deep. And it's hard to find people that can see you eye to eye and be like, yes, you're remembering. Good. Keep going. Right.
Yeah.
I love that you're so anchored in your truth. And at some point you just decided, this is what I'm receiving and this is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And every so often, through my journey, I fluctuate because I'm like, oh, I'll go back in my shell and then come back out. And it's like the right people have come in my path at certain times to get me back out there, which I'm so grateful for. I'm super grateful. But I also like what you said is that everybody has their own experience. And what I've realized is Lemuria wasn't just like a moment in time. Some of us think, oh, it was this place 26,000 years ago, and we use our linear thinking. And we're like, okay, 26,000 years ago. So what happened? In 26,000 years, it just popped up, and then 26, and the end of 26,001, it just popped down, and but it wasn't. It was like going back 50,000, and maybe I feel like 80,000. I don't know, but I feel like it went back 80,000 years. So that's a long time. That's a long time for the earth to be shifting, for things to be moving. And, to me, Lemuria wasn't just a fall. Like, it just fell one day and then the whole continent went down. It was a gradual thing over time. So everybody's experience is going to be different. Some are going to be at the tail end of it, and some are going to be at the beginning. I have memories of the beginning of it when I was actually visiting Earth. I was visiting Lemuria, but I wasn't Lemurian yet. And that's like, what? That's crazy.
Beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
I have those same memories. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like, wow, because when I was visiting, it was totally different. It looked different from that time that I remember when I was dreaming and everything was green and lush. It was very different. So yeah, a lot of things. It depends the timelines of the people that are remembering, what they're remembering in their life, and that's so true. Everybody's experience. I don't discount anybody's experience at all, because that's like saying, oh, you're from Hawaii? Oh yeah, okay, do you know so and so? Oh no, they live on Maui, and then they're like, Maui, like, how does that detach from Hawaii? Because they can't wrap their head around it that we live on different islands. And so that's kind of like Lemuria. I look at it as, oh, you're from Lemuria? Oh, we must know each other or whatever. But there were so many different timelines.
Yes, it's so quantum, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the way that I see it, even the dynamic of time, like time in its essence from my memories, we didn't experience it like we do now. Now it's very dense and slow, right? So yeah, it was a totally different dimension, right? Completely different.
Yes. And for me, I feel like, because I remember when I was visiting Lemuria before, it was a higher dimension. It was very different. But when I was leaving, it was very different. And I think I saw the two. That's why it kept showing me what the two lands look like, because that's the only way I could wrap my head around it. So when I was leaving, I saw the two dimensions, and it was splitting like this, kind of like, how people say, oh, the new earth and this and that, and they do the diagrams of the two earths. That's what I saw in the landmass. It was going like this in my dreams. And so it was like showing me that there was different dimensions. That's what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah. And the listeners won't be able to see, but your hands were just sliding apart, right? And so, yeah, that's exactly how I remember it too. It was just a difference in density and dimension, and that was quote unquote a fall off, right? And it's it's what humanity has done, right? What do we do with the Bible? We pick it up, we read it, and we take it word for word, right? I mean, I don't come from that background, but that's what I see. And it's like, no, it wasn't word for word 2,000, 3,000 years ago, right? So it's all of this, right? And then at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is anchoring back into your heart, right? Anchoring back into love. That's the only truth that we have. And I heard once that there's like 7 billion truths running around in this world. And that's true, right? And it's like, who has the courage to live that and remember that?
Yes. Yeah. And that's it. I recently did a video on truth, on our perception of truth. And we always like, it was funny because my wife was asking for a potato masher, and she never saw the potato masher that has the squiggly lines. And she saw that one. I never saw that. And I had the round one with the pukas in it, the holes. And so when we were looking in the drawer for it, I didn't know what it was, because I kept saying we didn't have one. And she's like, it's right there. And she goes, this is what we use. And then it was like, wow, I stepped back and I said, this is crazy, because we're talking about the same thing and both of us are talking truth. she has her truth and I have my truth, but because we had two different experiences, it looks like, no, no, this is my truth. Oh, no, no, this is my truth, when both of them are true. So I love, love, love that. When you said there's like thousands of truths for the same thing, oh my gosh, yes. It's all based on
Yes.
our own experience of truth, of our reality.
And that's such a small example, right? This is why countries go to war. This is why people have
Yeah.
massive misunderstandings. Like this was a
Mhm.
potato smasher, right? But like, how many times has that happened with, anybody and everybody? It's like, wow, right? We have to anchor
Yeah.
back into love.
Right.
Yeah. And I think this
Right.
also leads us into the conversation of coming into this new phase of humanity, right? And to me, maybe to you, it's reawakening Lemuria, but just reawakening this higher dimensional frequency, this multidimensional living. So I want to talk about that because every time I see you and I feel you, I'm reminded of this beautiful light and this joy of like the possibilities that exist when we step into this. So talk to me about it.
um, what do you want me to say? I don't know where to
Um,
start.
right. I guess one is like how remembering Lemuria, how bringing back Lemurian energy, how that looks for you. Why is it important? Is it important? And how that ties into this new step that we're going towards, this new multidimensional lifestyle that we're living.
Well, I feel like everything is going back to oneness. We all go through our different stages of awakening, and I feel like I'm going into that oneness stage now, which is the connection with my I am presence. My I am connecting the divine feminine and the divine masculine and being in one, and understanding that I am God. I am source creator. There's no separation, and seeing that in everything around me. And that's how I felt back then, you know, the connection that we have with the plants and the animals and the earth and the unconditional love. And I'm not talking about going outside and honoring the plants and being like, oh, you look so beautiful today, and looking at a flower. I'm talking about deep, deep reverence for love, like the bees flying into a flower. I remember this experience is the bees flying in and just so happy that they are with this flower, and this flower is giving them the succulent juices, not thinking about the flower may not be here in a couple of days, or it's just like super deep honor for the bee, for the flower, for being there and allowing it to drink from it. But then again, the flower just so happy to see the bee, and that was my first experience of unconditional love and what it meant, with that feeling. Because in the human form, in the linear ways of thinking, we always think that, I'm going to go visit so and so, but I'm never going to see them again. And you start taking yourself down that road. Or somebody's leaving, or you meet someone and you really, really, really like them. And then they go, oh, I'm leaving in a couple days. And you're like, oh my God, I got to do all these things before you leave. And then when they leave, you're crying, you're sad. And that is our human way of thinking. But really, it's like just rejoicing and living in the moment and loving this moment of two things connecting with the connection that two things have, and that's us in oneness with everything. Like when I went outside this morning, I just can't explain the feeling that I had looking at my plants and looking at the flowers blooming, all the way down to this. It was just a drop on one of my luau leaf on the kalo. There was this drop of water, and I was thinking, this is medicine, and it's so precious. And I almost wanted to go put it in a jar and just like honor it for what it was, and put it in and drink it, just because I'm giving reverence to this little thing being there, you know. and taking out those moments and being in that, being present in that moment of just what it is, not wanting it to be anything else, just exactly what it is. And I believe that that's what Lemuria is a consciousness. It's the connection to all things. You know, it's the higher level of consciousness. And that's what we're moving back into, is just the awareness, not only of self, but the connection that we have of everything that's around us. And we haven't gotten that chance on earth for a very long time. Everything has been about, if I let you in my life, what are you going to do for me? You know, in humanity, that's how we've thought for thousands of years. We don't have just, I just want to give you this because I feel that you need this and you should have it. We haven't thought in that manner for a long time, you know, and I feel like I'm in that deep resonance now of, this person really needs this, with no attachment, and just like giving it to them because I want to see the betterment of them in their life, you know, with complete love. And I don't even know these people, you know, and that's how it is. And then it's like I meet people and I have this deep love for them, and I'm like, oh my God, I love you. I have a brother that I just connected with, and I keep telling my wife, oh, I love him so much. Like, I've had so many lifetimes with him. And she said, you know, I've noticed you say that about a lot of people lately. I go, because I do, my soul family, right? You know, and it's funny. I just love everybody at this deep level. And I just honor them for being. And it's difficult for me to explain because it can only be felt.
Yeah, very well said. I love that. Yeah, this intense connection of oneness, and that's something that Hawaii has always taught me profoundly with every visit that we had here. It's to this day, to this very, I mean, I had it last night. I gave an offering to the land, and it just hasn't shifted all these years that we've been visiting, and now that we're living in it, it's humbling to feel the power. I think, at least for me, this land reminds me of the intricate connectedness of oneness. It's like it's in the air. You can't, at least for me, I can't be in Hawaii and not feel that when I look into the mountains and the water and feel the stones and see the volcanic rock. It's like, it's just, you're one with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a heightened sensitivity. I remember living in New York and walking by, it was Christmas time. And I remember seeing a truck full of Christmas trees coming in, and they were all cut off, obviously, right? They were for sale. And my body shrunk and I froze, and I felt this like heavy weight on my heart. And I was like, wow, they just cut down like 500 trees, and that's only on my block that they're selling that. This is happening all over the world. And a part of me was like, I don't want to feel this sensitivity. I don't want to feel this. You know, this is crazy to feel this oneness. Like, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see it as such a blessing, right? It's like coming back to that and then living it and putting our feet on the ground every day and being able to say, like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And like you said, it cannot be explained. I feel like when we put it into words, there's like this substance of sacredness that's almost like peeled away, right, from our language, but it can be felt. And I think Hawaii has always taught me that, or reminds me that every day, the feeling.
Yeah, yes. And the energy here, I mean, a lot of people say that, oh, this certain place is the heart chakra, this is the heart chakra. And I completely believe that this is the heart chakra. Hawaii is all about love, the love energy, the deepest meaning of aloha in like in every way. It just, it can mean so many things on a deep level, you know, and people that have past lives here, they feel that. And that's why they want to come back. No matter what people come into this lifetime as, whether you're black, white, Asian, purple, yellow, green, I don't care. If you have a connection to this Aina in any of your past lifetimes, you're going to feel it in this lifetime. And there's a lot of people that seem to be coming to Hawaii. And, you know, I see it on a way higher level because I feel like it's the soul coming back to hold the frequencies that we need. You know, it's their time. And people don't just come back to Hawaii and like, oh, okay, I'm Opono and I'm holding frequencies. You know, I'm good in balance. You come and the Aina wants you to heal and puts you through a deep, deep healing process. I don't care if you don't know the language, if you don't know the culture, if you have no cocoa or blood, you know, the Aina does not care. It's like, okay, you're going to get down and you're going to do this deep healing because we need your light, especially for the Lemurians. You know, we need your light. So finish and squeeze every last bit out right now, and then hold the frequency for everybody else, because this location on the earth is what's holding the rest of the earth. I feel it just is. You know, there's so many people that go, oh, I came to Hawaii and I'm not sure what it was. And that's why, because our grids are full of aloha and knowledge and just ike, and the ancestors are potent here, like just waiting, you know, and that's what they feel and people can't explain it. And some people are very detached because of their own past lives and what they've experienced in their past lives on that detachment, whatever it's been. But if you've had that connection, I don't care if it's your last life or 26,000 or 50,000 years ago, you're going to remember. You're going to remember it.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important, right? If you feel the call to answer it, because the land, like you said, the land will whip you up. Like there hasn't been a time that we visited several times before we moved, and every single visit, it was like tremendous amount of, we came for vacation. Imagine, like, we were like, we just want to go to vacation, you know, aside from that deep soul yearning calling, you know. And every single time it was like such intense, deep healing work, even if it was just for 1 week, right? And so we moved here and oh my God, I'm like a different person every day. I'm just rebirthed, you know, and she holds you through it. She's stern, but she will transform you. And yeah, this whole, I feel every island has a different frequency. And at the same time, it's all so, the whole thing, every part of it is so sacred, and there's just portals everywhere. And yeah, I feel Lemuria very, very alive.
Yeah, we're really, really blessed. I'm just like, every day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I incarnated here. You know, like, and I always tell my friend, I'm like, I could have incarnated anywhere on the earth, anywhere, right? But I incarnated here in this lifetime. Oh my God, so grateful, you know, just grateful, grateful, grateful. And it's very, I mean, it's not easy to live here financially, but when mama wants you home, everything will be taken care of. You just got to trust. And it's those that need to hold the frequencies for everybody else that's waking up. It's the waves, yeah? The waves of people waking up to who they are, to hold those frequencies for everybody else. We really don't understand how powerful we are just by being, you know, just somebody being here in a high frequency, what it's doing for the rest of Kanaka here. We can't understand it on the human level.
Yeah, it's very hard, right? Because that requires full acceptance and believing that we're fully worthy and fully deserving just for being, which is, you know, one of the primary things that's stripped away from us at a very, very, very young age, you know, whether people are conscious of it or not. You know, like you said, parents believe that they love their children, but there's this deeper thing happening, and it goes unseen for so long. So yeah, this land teaches you that the power and simplicity has always, it just blows my mind every day. And I'm reminded of that every day. And every day it's like every time I want to push, the land reminds me that that is not the way. This is not how we do things here. We do not push. We don't push where we're going, and we don't push now. And this is not how I want you to do things. And it's incredible.
Yeah. It really slows you down. It was so funny because I used to travel a lot to Washington, D.C. And so I'm from Hawaii, right? And I go to Washington, D.C., and everybody is like in a rush. Like even it, even if the light says to walk across the street, you better run, you know? And you really need to run or they're gonna slam on their horn, like get out of the way. And I'm like, oh my God, the paradigm, the shift was just like crazy for me. And my daughter, she wanted to go with me. So I took her on a trip. And she was so excited the first and second day. The third day, she was like, Mom, I think, I think I had enough of this. I think it's time to go home. Like, these people are not joking. They just, like, they're so rude. They just want you out of the way. Everybody's moving so fast. We're driving down the road, right? And me, I'm so used to being here. And you're kind of really, you watch traffic and you're like, okay, you can go in front. And then this person goes in front. And, you really try to move through traffic in a nice way where everybody has a chance to get in lanes. Over there, it's like, you gotta squeeze through these cars, otherwise you're not gonna get in, and they expect you to do that.
And you gotta push yourself in.
Yeah, you push yourself in, and and then they move back, and nobody says thank you, or and it was just like, wow, this is crazy. But you come here and everybody's like, it's slow, and that's what I love about this time right now is we're getting back to that. It's giving us that time to really slow down to how Hawaii was before. When I was growing up, it was not like this. We didn't have 6 or 7 lane freeways. We didn't even have the H3. We had a one-way in and a one-way out 40 years ago, and now it's like completely different. And for us to hold on to that and take this time right now to reach back out to that time and start remembering, okay, we gotta slow down so we can find ourselves again. This has just been such a blessing. And so many people are just awakening and just like realizing we're all going back to Aina. You go to Home Depot during the shutdown, everything was shut down, but Home Depot was open, but they had no soil, no plants, no seeds. All the organic seeds were gone. I was like, everybody had it in their mind. I was like, is nobody working? No, they're not. Everybody was like, I need vegetable gardens. And that's all we're doing online is people planting kalo, people planting vegetables and all this stuff. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. And this is one of the blessings that's happening in this world right now, right? Like anywhere you are in the world, and I think it's also important to recognize that, because I wanted to talk about, how do we see this? Like, what's the blessing in all this, even if you don't live in Hawaii, right? Because it is a huge blessing to live here. But even me, I wasn't able to live here for so long, right? It felt like such a distant dream and like I would never get here. And I remember even not living here, reminding myself, like, I don't care if I'm not in Hawaii yet. I always said yet, because I always said that would be my destination. But I would tell myself, what would I do right now if I was in Hawaii? And I would put myself in that state of mind where I don't want to rush. I don't want to cut people off. I'm going to be more present. And I was living in Miami, and I was living in New York, and I was living in these places where, the person next to me did not have that mentality, right? And I think now we're all being forced on a collective level, no matter where we are in the world. Like, I need to tune into what's actually happening in my home, tune into what's happening in my heart, and how can I make my life more simple, and I think that's one of the unseen, quote unquote, blessings from what's happening on the world stage.
Mm. Yes, definitely. Definitely. And taking a breath. It's just like sitting and breathing. It's just so many shifts. I just feel so grateful for this whole thing. And it seems like it's only been since March, but it seems like the world has been in this thing like for 5 years with all the shifts and changes that we went through. But so many revelations are coming out of people, and people are talking about it. Not only my friends from Hawaii, but people that I know, people all over the world. I have clients all over the world, and we're all experiencing the exact same thing because we're going back into that frequency, that dimension, that we're all connected, right? We keep calling it a synchronicity, but it's not. It's our abilities heightening because they're coming back. We're beginning to remember. But yeah, I have a friend in Germany, and he's planting, you know, and that's like, wow. He's like, oh yeah, I'm making a garden and this and that, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm making a garden. Like, how do you do that? Like all the way over there. I thought it was just us in Hawaii, or and he's like, no, 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 even my friends, and he's showing me pictures, and I'm like, wow, we're all
Yeah.
going back to that connection.
Yeah, we're all getting the message, and we're all getting it in 7 billion different unique ways, right? Whether it's
Yes.
Lemuria, or it's just love, or it's just I want greenery in my New York, apart, whatever it is, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I see this, the tumultuous times were necessary and have been necessary for so much to be revealed and so much to be cleaned up, and anyone, like you had shared on your awakening path, like anybody that's ever experienced any kind of awakening knows that your life will be torn apart, quite literally. And if you haven't experienced that yet, then you get to experience on a global collective what everyone else is experiencing, right? So it's like, okay, you haven't had an awakening yet, okay, now everyone's going to do it together. And so I think those who have been through the deepest, darkest awakenings are like, okay, I could do this. It's not too bad, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just so amazing how, because we all wake up when we're supposed to. It's all in divine
Mhm.
alignment, just like our families. I remember my mom saying, how come your sister doesn't understand that? And I told her, everybody has their soul mission, because we need those people that are breaking down systems. If they were all like, have cleared out all the karma and they've done all the processing and all that, they would just be at home, just be like, oh, okay. But we need every single soul on this planet has to play a part in this thing. We need the builders, the construction workers to break down and rebuild. We need the ones that are really like already in their awakening, I mean, their spiritual connection process, to hone in and connect to the spiritual side beyond the veil, to hone in with the ancestors and that deep connection. We need the the UFO trackers, because they're the ones that are all connected with the celestials, like we need every single being on this earth in their belief and what they're going through, because it's all pieces to the puzzle. Nobody is needed more than the other at
Right.
all.
Yeah. And that's oneness, right? Realizing that no one's ahead, no one's behind. We're all doing this together. And yes, everybody's needed. Because if everybody were enlightened, then what would be the point of all this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, because we could all be enlightened, but are we enlightened to ourselves? And that's the question. And you really have to, for me, this is just my reality. For me, I had to go through the dark periods. I had to have somebody in that polarity come into my life. So I was at my deepest, darkest to be able to surrender. Because if somebody just came into my life and loved me and sang Kumbaya, I wouldn't have surrendered. I wouldn't be at that place of surrender. I'd still be like, just saying, I'm singing and I'm doing yoga and shooting rainbows out my butt. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't be able to feel. And so the people that are still going through their journey and just waking up to themselves and going through the deep grind right now I can be with that, be there for them and be like, I know exactly what you're going through because I just went through it. And you know what? I made it. It took a long time. It took me 5 years to get where I'm at, but you can do it because I am completely different from the person that I was 5 years ago. Even my family, they have no idea. They're like, I really don't know who you are anymore. You know, I've shifted that much. I've changed that. Even my kids, my daughter will say, my mom, the mom that I used to have, and she says, oh, my mom is this, you know, and she sees me as this person. And she's like, oh, yeah, my mom was like that, but that's not my mom anymore. My mom is super like, this is who she is, you know, and it's just amazing on the shifts that we're doing. Like just seeing, just even my own clients. Wow, like they come back 3 months later and I'm like, whoa, what is going on in your life? Those beautiful things, all these things are falling away, you know, and they're like getting a divorce and losing their job and they're so excited about it. They're like, oh my God, Anela, since my healing, like I lost my job and I got rid of my husband and this and that. And they're like super happy. And I'm like, congratulations, you're cutting attachments, what no longer serves you. Just find joy. And they're like, I am, this is amazing. You know, but when we're going through it in the beginning, I remember being like, what is happening? You know?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's so important to share that. So thank you for that, because I think it's so easy to say and talk about like how we feel now and what life looks like now, right? Um, and it does look like we're wearing rainbow colored lenses, right? But it's like we went through a shitstorm, and I felt like I was never going to get out. And I
Oh,
loved
yeah.
that you shared that moment where you said to your wife, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here. And I feel like for me, I lived in that space for many years and I just couldn't get out. I couldn't get out of that. It was like, for me, it was almost like a mental, I'm really, really drawn to mental health because I feel like the spiritual awakening really takes a toll on the mental body, you know, and that's what we have. That's what we've been trained to do since we're little. Your mind is built to create your reality, and it's not like that. So when your mind starts to break down, it's like my whole reality is gone, right?
Mm.
So yeah, your life starts to break down, and that's not easy. And so that's what we're seeing in the collective, right? We're seeing that in the collective, and there's two ways to look at it, right? We could see it as, I want my old life back. Why is this happening to me? Or like maybe the perspective that your clients are taking, where like, yes, I feel liberated from these choices that I made, from a person that I used to be, you know, and here I am now stepping into the new, and you know, who knows what's going to come with that, right? It's not to say that it's easy, but it just comes back to the very first thing that you started with. When we anchor into love, you're just held, and
Mhm.
nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah. Well, you know, we really have to trust. And when I was going through my process, somebody kept telling me, you cannot get lower than you are right now. You know, if you lose your house and you lose your job and you lose your friends and you lose this and you lose that, what do you have? And then I was like, it shocked me because I go, myself. And they go, did you die? And then I go, no. And then they go, well, what is so bad about it? Tell me the worst thing that could happen. And it wasn't dying. And at that time I was afraid to die. You know, I was still in that fear factor that, you know, everything is falling apart. I'm not going to eat, like dramatic, you know, going down that spiral. And when she said that to me, I just was like, gosh, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, if I'm homeless, I'm still going to be alive, but I get to experience this other life. You know, I don't have to worry about the bills as much. I don't have to worry about this, and I don't have to worry about that. And I can clear responsibilities from myself. And, it's really funny because I always share about this. There was a time when the first time that I got deployed, I went to Iraq. And we spent about 14 months there, but I was 20 months away from my family. And during the 20 months, everything is given to you. Like your food, you just go 3 times a day, they feed you, whatever. And wherever you live, you work right next door. Everything is, you have clothes. You don't have to worry about going to the store and buying clothes, because all your clothes are given to you. You have 4 uniforms, right? And you just keep trading them out. The laundry is like right next door. You can do your laundry, fold your clothes. Anything that you need, there's a store like not even a block away. Everything is in like close proximity. You have somebody in your room. Anytime you need something, they're always right there. You have 500 people around you. And I live that life. And when I first went into Iraq, I was very scared the first night. And I remember these alarms always going off, like, the sirens. And after a few days, or after about a couple of weeks, you learn to just allow these sirens to go. And so when the sirens go, we're supposed to put on all our gear and go run and hide in the bunker. And then you hear whatever's happening is happening. And it's kind of far away, and it's not right in your proximity, but it's coming. And so the first couple of weeks, I'm constantly like, hurry up, get on my gear and run and go in the bunker. But after a while, I just was like, whatever. I'm sleeping at night, the sirens go off. I'm like, if it hits, it hits. Like, no matter what, if I'm here, I'm gone. If I'm in the bunker, I'm gone. So I'm just gonna stay. And so I learned to live my life in the moment. Constantly, just like, I don't have fear anymore. I'm just living life in the moment. I have everything that I have provided for. So when you come home, you don't have that. You're worried about the next day. You're worried about the kids. You're worried, you're being reminded of the past. And the kids saying, oh, you weren't home for me. So you're trying to repair all of this. And then you're trying to look to the future and what's happening. You got to go get gas, which I didn't have to do for over a year. You got to buy groceries. Now I'm forgetting to cook meals for my kids. All these responsibilities. I have a cell phone. It's going off constantly. And I was so just like, I just want to go back to Iraq. I just can't. I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to go back to Iraq. And I kept saying that. And a lot of soldiers do that because it's just too overwhelming. Because you get used to living constantly where everything is provided. And then so my friend had told me, why do you want to go back to Iraq? And then I told her, I think I'm afraid of living. And then it hit me, like, because all my life I've been worried about the past and the future and having to do all these responsibilities. Where there, I didn't. I just was living in the moment. How do I live in the moment? And I could never figure it out, Celeste. And now I just live in the moment. And I'm at that point that I was 14 years ago when I was like, I just don't want to be here back home with my kids and my family. I'd rather be in Iraq where it helps me live in the moment. But that's such a polarized way of thinking, Now it's completely different because it's completely from the heart base. Like I have full trust in the universe that it's going to take care of me, where I don't have to beat myself up for the past mistakes or experiences that I went through. And I don't have to worry about the future because it is what it is, whatever comes, and that's the state of mind that I'm in today. Completely different. And it's through this journey, all this hard work. It took me 5 years to get here. But there's been many dark nights of the soul in my life. So I know what you're talking about.
That's profound. Yeah, being able to really live in the present moment is, I always say it's like one of those things that's talked about and written about throughout all ancient texts, right? It is not easy to be able
Mm-mm.
to tap into that. But when you do, you tap into the quantum. You're living in the multidimensional, because all of a sudden things get done. All of a sudden, the past. I just had another interview with another Lemurian medicine woman, and she said it's multidimensional living. You no longer have to have a list of a million things to do. You just allow things to get done, and magically you're tapped in, and magically things happen for you, right? It's like, no, that can't be. And then, okay, let me try that for one day, and it happens. And I'm like, oh, do you think it could happen tomorrow? Right? And
Yeah.
so it's like a muscle that we need to build. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's a memory in our DNA that's being tapped into, or what it is, or it's a new strand of DNA that's coming online, but it's possible to start tapping more and more and more into that. And that's
Yeah,
quantum.
exactly. And I think just accepting everything for how it is, because like for people that can't see in that light of the quantum and all that, for me, the simple baseline of the earth experience is just realizing that nobody's going to die if it doesn't get done. Like if I'm doing multiple things, like all these different things, but I'm like, oh, today I didn't get my pyramids done, but that's okay because I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not stressing over it to say, oh, it has to be done, but I do have 1,000 things that's coming at me and doing, and I'm just kind of saying yes to the universe. Does this feel good? Yes. Okay, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm saying yes to all these beautiful, wonderful things that make me feel good, but somehow it all falls into place. And I'm not stressed over it because I love it. It feels good to me. That's where I find my joy, creating.
Yeah.
This is medicine in any way, whether it's creating pyramids or art or healing people or just sitting having a conversation with you here. This is medicine, deep medicine, you know?
Yes, I feel that. Yeah. And now that you say the creator, like creation, and the I am, all of this is connected. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I love how this conversation is going everywhere, but it's really not. It's just all one, right? It's like
Yeah.
when you start to tap into this, then you start to activate that I am presence. You start to balance out and create that holy trinity within, and you activate the creator strand. It's a creator strand of our DNA. All of a sudden, all you want to do is create, and there's not enough hours in the day. And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to create what I can today, and I'm going to pick it back up tomorrow, and let's see what happens. And this is it. This is multidimensional living. This is
Yes.
activated strands of DNA telling us, like, we need to create the new earth. And it's not a new earth far-fetched thing. We're just creating the things that we need to create to live now during
Yes.
these times.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. And that's so important. Just doing things that find us joy. A couple of my clients always say, I go, oh, your creative self, something wants to come out because you used to do these things in their past life or whatever, right? And I go, did you ever think about doing that? And they're like, well, yeah, I paint, but that was when I was like 20 years old. And I'm like, well, do it again, start doing it and look back on your life and all these things that we used to do as a child because it was already prepping us for what we're doing now. We have those abilities, but we're so used to saying, I don't do that anymore, or I don't know how anymore. And that's not true. It's not true. We've taken every single thing from all lifetimes into this lifetime. And so we have that ability, multidimensional beings. The DNA is awakening and all that stuff is surfacing. Just like when I teach my class, yeah, I don't say I'm teaching and this is what I'm teaching you. I say, you're going to remember. There is no linear steps to what we're doing. If something comes out of you, do it because that's how you do it. There's no way for me to say it has to be done this way and you got to go step by step and this is the only way you can do it. Bring in your medicine and what you have, because we all have our experiences from our past lives bringing this in. You may do sound, somebody else may do drums, somebody else may do, just talking, somebody else may do readings. We don't know, but everybody's medicine is needed and it's just all combined together. I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
Yes, yes. And I love that that you taught that way. It's so liberating, especially from a student's standpoint. It's like, oh, good, I'm not gonna get in trouble if I do something wrong or if I like by mistake channel something or who knows, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, good, she opened the door for that creativity to come through, right? And yeah, there's this heaviness that's lifted because you're allowing.
Yes. And it was so amazing because I saw you for healing after the class or realignment. We're already healed. We're realigning ourselves. So I saw you for realignment after the class. I was so excited. Once you posted it, I was like, I want to experience it. And I just want to experience it because I'm so excited for everybody to see what kind of medicine comes out. And oh my God, Celeste, it was so beautiful because what you brought to the table in your own remembering and awakening, it was just like, wow, it's magical. And my way is not going to be the only way or your way, the only way. Each student and each person that's like learning this modality is going to bring their stuff to the table. And gosh, when you started with the toning, I was like, I am home, girl. I am home. This feels so good, and I kept having to say, I got to relax because I was getting excited for you. And I was like, oh my God, look at her. And this is awakening. And that, like, I could feel your celestial guides coming through and I could feel everything. But I had to hone into my own experience. But I was getting so happy for you. It's so funny.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful. And to see these memories come through with every session, and wow, like really you really opened up those gates. I just want to say thank you because you allowed me to believe in all these visions that I've been having for so many years, where it's like, I'm just gonna like pretend I'm not having them. And now there's a reason for them, and it's so beautiful, so thank you for that, because your light is just lighting the way to so many beautiful souls.
Yes. And it's so funny because it's like when I was when you said something and you said, I never thought that I would do healing or I would do, be doing this, but we're multidimensional. And so even trying for us to make business cards is like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I have so many labels, right? And when we were talking story yesterday and you go, I do fitness too. I was like, yes, that's what I mean. Like, we do so many things. You can't just say that this is who I am. There is no title. And that's why it's so important to get rid of the titles of who we are and what we do. And, that's why I said, just putting a label on any type of healing modality, you really can't anymore because it's just ancient knowledge coming through. So it's the act of doing what we're actually doing that's the label. It's not really a name or what type or what modality, because so many things are awakening and opening and we're going in so many different directions. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, we're just weaving it all back together. So here we are doing our best and really trying to stay present and anchored in our hearts and loving every moment of it, right?
Yes. Yeah. I have a friend, she used to work at, well, she still does. She does salon work. So she does eyebrows and facials and she knows how to do massage, but the massage is really like starting to come up for her. Like she wants to go back to doing massages. And then she took my class and she goes, this is what I really want to do. And I don't know how to incorporate it at all. And then so I'm, I made an appointment. And it's amazing because she did massage and she did cupping and she did my eyebrows. And she's doing toning and she's doing with the bowls. And I was like, that was the best salon experience I had in my entire life.
Wow, that is a multi-dimensional spa.
Right?
Oh my God. The best.
I'm so happy for you. Let it all come out, and that's who we are now. There's no label. And she goes, oh, Anela, I don't even know how to recreate my website. I go, I know, I haven't done mine either. I don't know
It's
what
so
to put on
crazy.
there.
Yeah, I feel like I have to update my website every week. And at some point I'm like, you know what? It doesn't even matter. If you heard about me, I'll help you. If not, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. I just was like, I'm not going to keep updating this thing. I'm just going to let it go. Oh, it's crazy.
I love it. Well, do you have any final words about anything? If you want to speak to listeners who may need some advice on what's happening in this world or about Lemuria or awakening, just anything that's on your heart.
One thing I want to say is that we are shifting at a very, very fast rate. And it's not just one or two or a few people or special people or 144, like people say. It's every single person on this planet. We're shifting together. We're moving into this higher way of living, this higher dimensional way of living. And everybody is at different stages. And so we all need to remember that everybody's at these different stages, and not judging them, not judging people for their belief systems or what they're going through or whatnot, and just holding people in light, and also not judging ourselves for, look at this person and she's all the way here and he's there and look what I'm going through and all this. And don't judge ourselves. Just be. Just know that exactly you're in the perfect position exactly where you are. Everything is in perfect divine alignment. And no matter at what stage that we all are in ascension in this process, it's supposed to be that way. We're in the perfect place. So don't be afraid to reach out to each other and ask for advice, or speak truth and say what you're going through. Even if you're going, like, you've been on this train for a long time and you feel like you're supposed to be at this certain level. No, we need to continuously go back and speak our truth to people and say, this is what I'm going through, because it's going to be a roller coaster constantly. We're still in this plane, we're still here on earth. And that's what we got to remember, is that there's going to be days where the Aina is like, you're going to do some healing today. You're going to have some experiences today. And we need each other. And same for the ones that are just awakening. We're just awakening to becoming who we are without judgment. So don't judge ourselves. Don't be in that judgment state of mind where, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. Just reach out to people. Don't feel less than. There is no hierarchy anymore. We're all in this together. And, I that's one big thing that I say in my class. I'm just teaching something that I have mastery in, that I've known and I'm really good at. But it doesn't mean I'm good at cooking, or I'm good at, sound, or I'm good at this, or I'm good at that. It just means that this is what I can share with you, because this is my medicine. And so if I want to go to sound, I'm going to go to somebody who's the master of sound, and they're going to teach me. There is no hierarchy on who's better. We all bring our medicine to the table, no matter what it is. Even if it's art, or just speaking light language, or dancing, or singing, whatever it is, it's all medicine. So whatever you have to bring to the table, just allow it to flow, and don't be afraid of stepping forward, because we all need each other's medicine. It's so important right now. So, so, so important.
Yes, very well said. So beautiful. I just want to thank you. I want to thank your spirit, your soul, your light, your joy, everything about you, Anela, is so beautiful. And I'm just really, really grateful to have met you and to have you on. And perhaps we can continue these conversations through
Yes,
time.
yes, I love that. I know, I feel like from the first time, I felt like I knew you my whole life. And then it was so funny because they were like, Katie goes, I knew there was going to be a time that you guys had to meet up and you guys finally met up. And I was like, oh my God, my sister, like I haven't seen her for thousands of years. And that's how I felt. I just was like home, the feeling of, family finding each other. So thank
Yeah.
you so much. It's been like, I feel like, it's so funny because when soul family meets up with each other, we don't start by, hey, how was your day? I'm good. I drove down the hill and I did this. We're like, hey, how was your day? My mom, well, I didn't have a dad and I had this and, my spiritual awakening. It's like on a deep level, right? That's how you know. If you want to know who your soul family is, that's how you know.
Yes, right. What conversations are you having? I love that. And I love those conversations and having those more often. And it's just so warming and it's just soul food, right? It's like, yes, just give me the good stuff. Give me the real stuff,
Yeah, definite.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you. I love you so much. And I thank you for your presence and your wisdom and your courage through all of this.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Celeste. This was enjoyable. Oh, it was just a beautiful day. Yes. Beautiful conversation. Just love your energy. Mahalo nui loa for your spirit. And thank you, like I say, for being here on the deepest level here on earth at this time and making a difference and shining your light. It's so needed and it is not easy. It is not easy for any of us, but you haven't given up. So I honor you for that.
Thank you. Likewise. Mahalo nui loa. Until next
Nui
time.
loa. Okay, ahui ho. I'm going to teach you Olelo Hawaii.
Ahui ho.
Ahui ho. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.